You know absolutely nothing about wine, you've probably heard of Napa Valley, and you likely know that it is a really famous wine region, and not just in California, but in the entire world. It wasn't always this way, and in today's episode, I'm going to do a quick overview of Napa Valley, talking about the incredible history of this region, the grape varieties that you should know about, and some of the incredible AVAs where there are unique wines being made throughout this really diverse region. Hi friends, my name is Sarah, and I'm a certified sommelier and host of the Wine CEO podcast. And each week on this channel, I dive into different wine-related topics, speaking with winemakers, industry professionals, and just looking into wine topics that are really interesting and help make wine more fun and approachable for the average consumer. This week I'm doing a deep dive into Napa 101, but if you have not subscribed to my show before, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can catch all of the amazing wine content on my channel. I love to dive into different wine topics from all over the world, and this year especially, I'm doing some exciting travels to wine regions, so you do not want to miss out. But for today, let's go ahead and dive into my episode, Napa Valley 101, to hear a little bit more about this famous wine region. So folks are often surprised to hear that although Napa Valley is such a famous wine region, it is actually rather small. It only produces about 4% of the wines coming out of the state of California. And while the region itself is about 5 miles wide, it's only 30 miles long. But in this tiny region, you have over 400 wineries that are crammed into that tiny space. And it's producing outstanding wines that have incredible reputation. But again, only about 4% of the production that's coming out of the state of California. So there are regions all across the state that are producing way more wine than Napa Valley, but the region is just incredibly famous. But it wasn't always this way. So wines technically came to California over 200 years ago with Spanish missionaries, and it started to grow in the mid-1800s with the gold rush. But then sadly, we saw phylloxera come in and decimate a lot of the crops throughout California. And then we hit Prohibition, and a lot of wine across the United States, the production was halted. And if it wasn't for medicinal or religious purposes, the wine went away. And we saw that kind of continue until about the 1960s and 70s, when wine started picking up again in California and Napa Valley specifically. But the region really wasn't regarded as making high quality wine. So in 1976, there was a British wine merchant who pitted some of the top French wineries against some up-and-coming American wineries in a blind tasting. Now known as the 1976 Judgment of Paris, this blind tasting took the world by surprise when, to everyone's shock and awe, the American wines beat out these really famous French wineries in the blind tasting in both the red and white categories. And this changed everything for American wineries, especially in Napa Valley, because suddenly all around the world, everyone put great value and recognition and respect into the wines being made in California. And overnight, people were flooding the region to buy up land, buy up grapes, and start making wines because they were riding on the coattails of this incredible victory of the American wineries that had been making great wines in California, but hadn't really been recognized up to that point for the incredible work that they were doing. As you can imagine, over the many years that followed, lots of new wineries were popping up, and it resulted in over 400 wineries that are in this beautiful region today in Napa Valley. Now, Napa Valley is about 50 miles north of San Francisco, so we're talking Northern California, and it is a really unique and diverse climate. When we talk about geography, Napa Valley is nestled between two mountain ranges. You have the Mayacamas Mountains to the west and the Vaca Mountain Range to the east. And this creates a really unique growing atmosphere where the grapes are protected from harsh winds. They have a beautiful amount of rainfall and sunlight that helps the grapes grow in a really moderate way. Grapes love moderate climates. It helps them to really thrive. When we're talking climate, Napa Valley experiences a Mediterranean climate. So this is a region where you get really warm days, in the summer's hot days, but in the evenings you have really cool nights. There are some summer nights where you literally need a jacket because it's so cold. Again, you have the unique mountain range, and you have the ocean that's over to the west that kind of brings these ocean breezes into the valley. And so it creates this beautiful microclimate where you get a great amount of rainfall, but you you also have an extended growing season because of the warmer days and the cooler nights. So the grapes don't ripen too quickly. They have a really nice slow ripening, which helps create really complex and full flavors within the grapes. On top of that, there are about 12 different unique soils around the world that are optimal for growing grapes, and Napa Valley has 6 out of the 12 of these. So this makes the region really diverse. You have the opportunity within one small region to grow a lot of different grape varieties because different grapes grow really well in different soils. So you have everything from volcanic, you have sandy soils, clay, you have a lot that's unique throughout the region, and so you can grow different types of grapes in different soils throughout Napa Valley. So what you'll find is that in some regions around the world, they may be known for one specific grape variety, but Napa is known for many grape varieties, and there are a lot of high quality wines coming from the region of multiple grape varieties because the region is so unique. It has a lot of diverse soil and characteristics that help it produce some outstanding wines of different varieties. So we're going to talk more about those varieties in just a second. So Napa Valley is known for its 16 distinct AVAs, or American viticultural areas. And an AVA is a protected area that's been designated in the United States for specific boundaries of winemaking. And so within that AVA, if you're growing grapes and producing wine in that AVA, you can then label the wine and have it listed on the label that the wine comes from this particular AVA or protected region. And so there are 16 unique AVAs throughout Napa. I'm not going to go in depth into each of these today because we would be here for quite some time, but what I do want to do is just list them quickly and give you really quick high-level notes on what each of these AVAs is known for, because again, they have really distinct characteristics that help produce unique wines in each of these neighborhoods, we'll call them, throughout the Napa Valley region. So first up is Calistoga. This area is known for volcanic soil and warmer temperature, which makes this AVA a perfect place for Cabernet Sauvignon and Zinfandel. St. Helena is a prime spot for full-bodied Cabernet Sauvignons that have really rich and opulent characters. My favorite in Napa Valley is Rutherford. I absolutely love Rutherford. It's known for what's called the Rutherford dust, which is like a unique soil combination within Rutherford. And this AVA is known for really earthy and complex Cabernet Sauvignons, really age-worthy, beautiful Cabernet Sauvignons. Oakville is home to some of Napa's most iconic wineries. You've heard of many of them from Oakville. It is truly synonymous with premium Cabernet Sauvignon that's really balanced and elegant from the valley. Yountville has cooler temperatures, so this is a great spot for Merlot and Chardonnay. The Stag's Leap District is known for really silky, refined, beautiful Cabernet Sauvignons with softer tannins. Atlas Peak is located in the hills. This AVA is much cooler, and so it's perfect for really bright, structured wines, both Cabernet Sauvignon. There's a lot of Syrah in this AVA also. Mount Verdier is a mountain AVA, and so it produces really bold tannic wines with intense flavors. Often you'll find a lot of Merlot here as well as Cabernet Sauvignon. The Spring Mountain District is another hillside AVA. It's also known for Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, but you get more like lush fruit and kind of herbal characteristics on these wines. Diamond Mountain District produces really deeply colored, beautiful, age-worthy Cabernet Sauvignons. Carneros is a really unique region. There's actually Carneros that is half in Napa Valley and half in Sonoma. We'll talk about Sonoma on a future episode. But Carneros is situated at the very southern end of Napa, and it's cooler because it borders the San Pablo Bay. That makes this AVA ideal for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, as well as sparkling wines. Coombsville is a newer AVA. It produces Cabernet Sauvignon with great structure and finesse. Chiles Valley is a higher elevation. There's cooler nights here, and so this AVA is perfect for Zinfandel as well as Cabernet Sauvignon. Howell Mountain, this AVA is known for intense, full-bodied Cabernet Sauvignon with really firm tannins, long aging potential. Wild Horse Valley is a smaller, cooler AVA. It focuses primarily on Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And then you have the Oak Knoll District. So this is a versatile AVA producing everything from Merlot to Chardonnay. You'll find a lot softer, more restrained styles coming out of the Oak Knoll District. So as you can see, each of these AVAs has really unique characteristics. And again, that comes down to the soil, the exposition, where they fall within the valley, close to the mountains. Are they a little bit going up onto the hillsides? Are they truly down in the center of the valley? The positioning is really key because it depends on how much sunlight they'll get, how much rainfall they'll get. What a lot of people don't realize is that there's a lot that goes into winemaking, but most of it comes from great grapes. You have to get great grapes first, and there are a lot of different factors that can impact how the grapes are being grown in the valley, in the vineyard, and then once you have those great grapes, you can go ahead and make great wine in the winery. But if you don't get great grapes, you're going to struggle to make great wine in the winery, even if you are an excellent winemaker. So you'll notice also as I was talking about a lot of those AVAs that I was mentioning some grape varieties. So let's talk about the top grape varieties that are really known in the valley. You heard me mention Cabernet Sauvignon over and over and over again in most of those AVAs, and that's because Cabernet Sauvignon really is king in Napa Valley. If you've heard of Napa Valley, you've probably made it synonymous with Cabernet Sauvignon because this variety really is most known throughout Napa Valley. It is grown in many of the wineries throughout the region, and it really is a perfect grape to be grown in this climate because, again, in the Mediterranean climate, it really thrives. It needs those hot days throughout the growing season to be able to develop great fruit characteristics, but the cooler evenings help it to retain some of its acidity. And what you find is that because of the diversity of soil throughout the Napa Valley region, you can have different styles of Cabernet Sauvignon. And so you can go to Napa and try hundreds of different styles of Cabernet. Even within the same winemaker, you can find multiple styles of Cabernet Sauvignon depending on where they are growing their grapes, and they could all taste very, very different. But Cabernet Sauvignon is not the only wine being produced, obviously, throughout Napa Valley. You also heard me mention Merlot quite a bit. There's some outstanding styles of Merlot. Zinfandel is a really popular grape grown throughout Napa Valley as well, but you'll also find a lot of Chardonnay. There's some Sauvignon Blanc, but there's also some styles that you might think of more commonly in like Italy or Spain. You'll find Barbera, Sangiovese. There's some Tempranillo being grown. So there's a lot of unique grape varieties that you can grow throughout Napa. Again, the predominant ones are going to be the main ones. Again, king typically is the Cabernet Sauvignon, but you'll find a lot of Chardonnay when it comes to white wine. A lot of red blends too. There's a lot of winemakers that are making some outstanding red blends throughout Napa Valley also. Now, since we're talking grape varieties, one of the things that I have folks ask me about all the time when we're talking Napa Valley is how long should I be aging my Napa wines for? And aging is such a funny topic, and I've brought it up on the podcast before, but I think it's important to mention because it always comes up when I'm talking to folks about Napa. There's a little bit of a misconception when we're talking about aging wines. First of all, an older wine is not necessarily always a better wine, right? Aging is personal preference. And so as a wine ages, it is going to develop different flavors. It is going to morph and change a little bit in its profile. Some people love older wines. Some people love younger wines. And so it is personal preference, first of all, if you want to choose to age a wine or if you want to enjoy it a little bit younger. But it's also important to remember that not every wine is meant to be aged. And that is between grape varieties. That's also within the same grape variety. So you have to look at a couple different things when you're aging wines. You want to look at how much acid, how much tannin structure, how much alcohol content the wine has. All of these different factors will determine if a wine has great potential for aging. So those are aspects of a wine that help it fight oxidation and fight some of the negative aspects that can happen as a wine is aged over time. So those aspects of the structure of the wine will help it to last a little bit longer. Now, it's also important to remember that the vintage or the year that the grapes were harvested to make that particular wine impact the ageability as well, because there are some years where the grapes grew and created more acid and gave it a little more structure that would be needed for aging potential, whereas maybe the next year it was a little bit cooler and maybe you got some acid but not enough acid to make it more age-worthy, but it also didn't develop the right tannin structure that you needed. So I always encourage folks, before you just decide to buy a whole bunch of wine and age it, do your research. You need to either talk to the winemaker or individuals at the winery to see if this is a wine that they recommend aging, or see if maybe there was a different vintage or a different bottle that they recommend. Sometimes even within a single portfolio, a winemaker will have one example that they made for youthful enjoyment, and then they'll have another one that they produced in a way that they're preparing it for longer aging. Sometimes giving the wine a little more oxygen exposure throughout the production will help it age better as it slowly is introduced to oxygen as it gets older. So it's really important to ask the winemaker or which wines they would recommend to age, but then also doing your research into what happened at vintage. Do a lot of professionals consider that vintage to be a year that's really good for aging? And then does the wine have high acid or high tannin or high alcohol content? Those things are going to help it age a little bit as well. Again, it's important to remember that some varieties are not necessarily going to age as well as others. You can find certain wines that are aged all over the world, but there are kind of some that are safer or easier to age. And we know that Cabernet Sauvignon in many cases is really good for ageability, but there are other wines that are coming out of Napa that you wouldn't necessarily age for quite as long. So it's good to do your research. It's good to check with the winery and see if that's something that you're looking to do. You can go ahead and do that research to prepare the wines that you're purchasing for your cellar or your wine room to be able to age. But don't assume that you have to age wines that you're buying from Napa or that they're all age worthy and then they're not meant to be enjoyed young also. So something that I like to mention, because again, for some reason, whenever Napa Valley comes up, folks ask me about ageability for wines all the time. So just kind of mentioning that as an aside. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention on today's episode is visiting Napa Valley, because it is a beautiful region. And in fact, kind of funny story. So two of my best friends in high school and I, when we were graduating from high school, we went to Napa Valley for the weekend, and people were shocked because they were like, wait, you couldn't drink yet. You were 18. Why did you go to Napa Valley of all places? I won't age myself because it was quite a few years ago, but we went because it's such a beautiful region. And honestly, it's known for incredible restaurants, incredible hospitality, and just gorgeous views. You can still visit a lot of the wineries to enjoy a great lunch, to go hiking throughout the area. There's great shopping. So there was a lot of fun things for us to do, even though we were not of legal drinking age. Now, obviously, the main draw to the region is being able to come and enjoy the outstanding wines and the industry that's there. And so if you're looking to visit Napa Valley, there's a couple things to keep in mind. So first of all, because of the diversity within the region and over 400 wineries, you're going to find a lot of variety within the wine tasting experiences. Some of the wineries are going to be small family-owned operations where you'll see that it's very much like a farming business, right? Where the family is making their product and they want you to be able to just pop in casually and enjoy some of the great wines that they're making. But other wineries within the region, because they have grown significantly, they're very large operations, they're going to be difficult to visit, one, without a reservation, and two, without the right attire. So there are some wineries in Napa that are a little more polished at this point. They've definitely grown as the region has gained considerable attention. And so you want to make sure that you plan ahead when you're visiting the region. It's a very popular wine. When I was before, not a few years ago, many years ago when I was not of legal drinking age, it's changed quite a bit. I've been to Napa over 10 times over the last 15 years, and I'm fortunate to have my full-time job located out in the Bay Area for the last 4 years. And so I go to Napa 3 to 4 times a year, and I'm regularly there visiting. And so it's changed a lot, even just in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been visiting so regularly, right? So one of the things that I love to tell folks is plan ahead. It's a very popular region. You want to make your reservations, whether that is hotel reservations, dining reservations, or especially reservations to visit wineries. Plan ahead. There are a couple that you can definitely pop into and enjoy same day. Behringer has a great self-guided walking tour. You can just pop in and same day be able to get in and get some samples. Bolio Vineyards. There's definitely some great wineries that offer same day availability, but for the most part, I've found that it's always a good idea to plan ahead and book a wine tasting before just showing up. I mentioned the attire just a moment ago, so make sure that you do your research to know if that winery is a little more formal or a little more casual, because more and more wineries in Napa have become a little more formal over the last few years in my experience. And also restaurants will book up far in advance. There are some phenomenal restaurants throughout the area, but you want to make sure you book a reservation because it will be very busy even on a weekday. Now, if you are looking to stay somewhere where you can try a lot of wines in a short period of time, maybe just on a quick weekend, I would recommend staying in downtown Napa. It is beautiful and it's grown significantly over the last few years. And in downtown Napa, you'll find that there are a lot of tasting rooms for wineries located on the main strip. So you can bounce from one room to the next and get to taste samples of a lot of great wines and buy some bottles to take home. home. The wineries themselves are located outside of the downtown Napa region, right? And so you would need to drive to the winery to actually visit their tasting room or to be able to do a tour. And so you'll either need a car to be able to drive around the region, or you'll want to hire a driver. Now, obviously you want to be really safe. And so make sure if you are going to drink that you either have a driver or you book a tour so that you can have someone take you around the region. There are spittoons available at every winery, and the winemakers are always so hospitable and will be happy to give you a spittoon to make sure that you're staying safe as you're enjoying the region. But if you want to be able to drink the whole time that you're there and not have to spit everything out, then definitely make sure you get a driver and stay safe, because it is a very busy region and there's a lot of fun things to do. So you want to be able to see and do it all while you're there. As I mentioned, although it is such a small region, there are a lot of wineries within there, so it can definitely get crowded. There's going to be traffic throughout different high points of the day. So make sure you plan ahead and don't be afraid to ask for help from the hotel you're staying at or some of the wineries that you're visiting. They know the area best. They'll be able to direct you on how to travel throughout the region and make sure that you get to enjoy everything that Napa Valley has to offer. So I hope this was a really great quick overview of Napa Valley. Again, it is a beautiful region, and I'm barely scratching the surface in this episode, just giving you a quick 101 intro to the region so that hopefully as you look for wines to enjoy in your local stores, when you see Napa, you now know a little bit more about that region, and you're looking for some of those AVAs and grape varieties that I mentioned that you know are coming out of this incredible region. To learn a little bit more about Napa, head over to my website, thewineceo.com. I have a link in today's show notes for a blog post that I did on Napa. There's some great maps and a little more info about each of the AVAs and some tasting notes on some of the grape varieties that you might want to try from the Napa Valley region. Again, these are going to be kind of general notes around some of the wines that you'll find from the region. There's incredible diversity to find, but if you want to learn a little bit more, head over and check that out so that you can read that today. While you're there, if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, make sure you do so. There's exclusive content that I send to the folks that are on my newsletter that you won't see on the podcast in videos here like this. It's also where I announce new and exciting things before it makes it here. So if you want to be a part of that insider club, definitely sign up for the newsletter. It's totally free, and it's a great way to be more plugged into the Wine CEO community. If you learned something new on today's episode, don't forget to like and share this episode with a friend. If you have not subscribed to the show yet, make sure you do that now. I have some exciting episodes and travel content coming up in the next few months, and you are not going to want to miss it. So until next episode, friends, I hope you drink something new and delicious, and I will catch you next time on the Wine CEO podcast.